we are more concerned about checking off boxes, a certain amount of this, certain amount of that. We have to have 5% of this, 12% of that. The fallout is you end up with people that cannot really do what needs to be done. Sure, we need diversification, but we also need people that are able and qualified to do what needs to be done.
The biggest race-hustling grifter on TV, Al Sharpton, leaves Morning Joe speechless after he destroys the Democrat Party for being in utter chaos and also slams DEI for being a massive failure. It's like the meme that says when the worst person you know makes a good point, as Al Sharpton has some profound realization that when you hire people based on their skin color and implement arbitrary hiring quotas in the name of diversity, you don't end up with the best people for the job. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but I want to start with Mika Brzezinski reading a New York Times article that exposes the utter disarray that the Democrat Party is in. Watch.
Democrats are grappling with how to stand up for diversity and defend marginalized groups that have come under assault from the White House without allowing their party to be defined or marginalized by those fights. President Trump has pushed to make DEI a dirty word, racing to unravel diversity programs across the federal government at a remarkable speed. But Democrats are struggling to marshal an effective response. They are debating publicly and privately when to push back, how to push back, and what exactly to push back on. Some are saying that almost no instances of discrimination, especially rank racism, should go unanswered. Others are pressing the party to be more selective and engage only in cultural battles that are winnable. And still others are urging the party to avoid identity politics altogether, even when Republicans seem to be opening themselves up to a fierce counterattack.
The Democrats have no leader, no message, no consensus, no unity, and that's why they've resorted to their pointless and embarrassing protests. Despite Donald Trump and his agenda being more popular than ever, the Democrats have taken the resistance position without offering any viable alternative. They act like people haven't formulated an opinion about Donald Trump, and they can just keep screaming Trump bad, and it's going to result in some sort of drastic cultural change. But I mean, it's pretty on brand for out-of-touch Democrats that they're still using a 2017 playbook, which prompts Al Sharpton to begin his tirade against the Democrat Party, saying they're having an identity crisis. They don't even know who they are, which is leading people to draw their own conclusions.
I think that what the Democratic Party has to do and the leadership of the party is stand for something and not try to be all things to all people. And when I read the article, I think that's the debate. Either you're going to say that we are for diversity, and diversity meaning blacks and women and LGBTQ and disabled. Don't let them interpret what it is. That we stand for that. We stand for good policing, but we don't stand for defund the police. You have to have enough nerve and enough backbone to say, define who you are and why you are, rather than be defined by your enemies. And I think that too often the Democrats have allowed their opposition to define them, and they accept the definition. So they are defined as extremists, and you're all about defund the police, and you're all about anarchy, and they become defensive rather than they set the tone.
The only problem with what he's saying is that the Democrats did try to define themselves. It was just exposed to be a complete lie. They said they were the ones who cared about the Constitution and the norms and democracy and the rule of law. They said they cared about compassion and empathy and human rights while allowing 1 out of every 3 women who crossed the southern border over the last 4 years to be sexually assaulted. They said they were all about protecting illegal immigrant kids while also losing 300,000 illegal immigrant kids. They said they were for women's rights while also letting men compete in women's sports and be in women's private spaces. In 2020, Kamala Harris was running as a super progressive. And then in 2024, she tried to pretend to be a moderate without explaining how she moved from point A to point B. The reason Republicans have to define Democrats is because every time the Democrats do it themselves, they're just untruthful. Now, this is when Al Sharpton says the Democrats have to stop trying to force people to care about issues that they don't care about. Watch.
But it doesn't help marginalized people to not be able to win elections. The purpose of the Democratic Party is to win elections. We don't need to be babysitting the emotional state of activists.
And I think that clearly we, again, allowed them to define us. I had a mentor that used to say to me, those that define you can confine you. And I think the definition, when they came out with this blitz on transgender, exaggerating the point, there was no pushback saying, no, we're not saying that. We're saying people have rights. Mm-hmm. So I think that she, in many ways, says what is true. And that is that we cannot appear reckless in where we are fighting in terms of trying to make people be forced into situations that they do not want to be forced in if we don't believe in. I believe in transgender rights, but I do not believe that should be the lead and defined by the opposition.
And that is one, if not the primary problems with the Democrat Party, is they will not give up the trans issue. They will argue that it's such a small, insignificant portion of the population, but then they choose for it to be the hill that they're going to die on when they know that the American public overwhelmingly does not support that indoctrination. They claim they care about people's rights, but will also demand that people give up their right to live in reality and be truthful. The Democrats want to compel people to live in a delusional world where men can become women. They decided they wanted to shove this cultural issue down everybody's throats. And then when we reject it and we start pushing back, their defense is, oh, the trans population is so insignificant. This is such an absurd thing for you guys to care about. The Democrat Party decided to focus solely on identity politics and become a progressive activist group, not a party of government that is focused on improving the lives of the citizens. And Joe Scarborough mentions this when he talks about the absolute clown show that the Democrats put on at the DNC.
Just how far the party is from consensus was apparent during the recent election for the next chairman of the Democratic National Committee, which devolved at times into almost a caricature of left-wing litmus tests on inclusivity. Candidates were asked to pledge to expand transgender representation, add a new Muslim caucus, and affirm that racism and misogyny contributed to Kamala Harris's defeat. Last Saturday, the departing DNC chairman, Jamie Harrison, labored to explain the party's dizzyingly complex gender parity provisions. Our rules specify that when we have a gender non-binary candidate or officer, the non-binary individual is counted as neither male nor female, and the remaining 6 officers must be gender balanced. Republicans gleefully circulated clips of the moment to portray Democrats as hopelessly obtuse.
Again, the Democrats are just choosing the most unpopular issues to make the core tenets of their party ideology. And these beliefs are so nonsensical that when they even try to implement them at the DNC, they're so convoluted that nobody can understand what's going on. They try to implement these gender parity rules, and then when someone who was non-binary threw their hat into the ring, everything descended into chaos because they don't have a process that's intended on picking the best person for the job. That's easy and that's straightforward to implement. They have this egalitarian utopian vision of what the world should be, and because that's impossible and not real, their policies intended on accomplishing this are just ludicrous and confusing. And that confusion and disarray prompts Al Sharpton to destroy DEI. Watch.
I think that what the Democrats have to be careful of is, again, being defined where we are more concerned about checking off boxes, a certain amount of this, certain amount of that, rather than being clear on what it is we stand for and have people of all backgrounds rise up to represent that. And the fallout from that is by just saying we have to have 5% of this, 12% of that, and not what it stands for, and that these people have merit and speak for the people. The fallout is you end up with people that cannot really do what needs to be done to make the party victorious. Sure, we need diversification, but we also need people that are able and qualified to do what needs to be done. And if we make point B point A and A point B, we lose every time. And we cannot let those that can make the most noise voice decide the strategy. Let them yell all they want.
When I first heard this, I was shocked. Al Sharpton saying that you shouldn't hire based off race because it doesn't lead to hiring the best person. That's what we've all been saying. But now the biggest race hustler on TV finally sees it, because now it's causing his party to be on the brink of extinction. And he admitted the quiet part out loud. All the Democrats would say, no, DEI isn't a quota. It's just allowing opportunity to certain groups that don't have it. But he just admitted, no, DEI is no, we need 15% of our people to look like this. We need 5% of our people to be disabled. We need 33% of all new hires to be women. They are quite literally quotas that discriminate against other people. So if you've already reached your allotted amount of white men that you can hire, now you have to close off your hiring pool to a specific group of people. And while there may be qualified people within that group, the point is you are limiting yourself from picking the very best. And that concept has been outright rejected by the American people. And that's what Al Sharpton is saying. They can no longer lie and say that DEI is supposed to give access to people who are in marginalized communities when the rest of America knows that it's literally racial and discriminatory hiring quotas. And he even admits that that process is what's contributing to the Democrats losing, because they aren't focused on hiring the best talent. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you is the actual clip from the DNC, where everybody gets so confused and doesn't understand what's going on with their gender parity, non-binary acceptance rules or whatever. Watch.
Rules specify that when we have a gender non-binary candidate or officer, the non-binary individual is counted as neither male nor female, and the remaining 6 offices must be gender balanced. With the results of the previous 4 elections, our elected officers are currently 2 male and 2 female. In order to be gender balanced, we must elect 1 male, 1 female, and 1 person of any gender. So again, this is what we have to do for this vice chair race. We have to elect 1 male, 1 female, and 1 person of any gender. To ensure our process accounts for male, female, and non-binary candidates, we conferred with our RBC co-chair, our LGBT caucus co-chair, and others to ensure that the process is inclusive and meets the gender balance requirements in our rules.
When you have Al Sharpton criticizing the Democrat Party, you know they have done something extremely wrong. Trump's campaign was all about a return to normalcy and common sense. So when Democrats picked the strategy of fighting and resisting Donald Trump, the majority of Americans see that as trying to fight a common sense America First agenda. He is more popular than ever, while the Democrats are more unpopular than ever. And they are still deciding to go down the path that has led to the destruction of their party. And I'm totally here for it. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those notification bells so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.